Hey, good evening, everyone. My name is Dan Whitfield. I am the Progressive Democrat running for the United States Senate here in Arkansas to unseat and replace Senator John Bozeman in 2022. And I like to do a weekly live stream update Q&A where we talk a little bit about what happened over the last week, where we stand with current events and politics, and then also what our plans are for next week and the future ahead. So, my last week's live stream was more of just announcing to run that I'm running as a Democrat, talking about policy, answering questions, and of course this is a Q&A. So throughout my live stream, ask questions. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, so you can be on any of these different platforms and ask questions, and I will answer them live time for you guys. And I didn't really talk a whole lot about current events last week, so I wanted to talk more about current events this week, especially things that we're facing as Arkansans here today, things that our state legislators are doing. So I guess let's go ahead and just jump right into it and get started. All right, so the first things I wanted to talk about were these House bills that are going to be coming up for vote here soon. I know there are going to be some protests and demonstrations about these bills, and I've had people reach out to me asking to share the information for these events and if I support them. And of course, I do support them, absolutely 100%. I really support people going out and voicing their opinions, voicing their dislike on different legislative actions and things like that. Personally, I will not be attending any of these protests because of COVID-19. We are we're almost there for the vaccine. My wife and I have been quarantined pretty hardcore for almost a whole year now. I did make it out for one or two protests last year, and then also for a tour that I had done. But other than those times, we have been staying home for the most part. So once I have my vaccine, we'll be eligible, I believe, in April for everybody who is not on the high priority list, or let's see, where is it at? Let me see if I can find this list real quick so I can tell you all when you guys will be eligible to get your vaccinations. I'm pretty sure I'd posted on my social media not very long ago. But yeah, so April will be the time when we're able to get our vaccination. After we have our vaccine and then our booster, we'll probably wait about 2 weeks. And then after those 2 weeks, that's when we're going to start getting out there, going to these protests, making sure that people's voices are getting heard and bringing attention to the really important issues that we're facing. Come on, it couldn't have been that long ago. Oh my gosh. Here we go. Okay, so when can I get vaccinated in Arkansas? Let's see. Right now is 1A category. So that is basically healthcare workers, long-term care residents, and staff, EMS, fire, law enforcement, and those who serve as first responders. And then Monday, it looks like they already started. That would have been like Monday a week ago. They started the 1B, which was going to be people age 70 and up, teachers, school staff, and daycare employees. So those people should already be eligible for the vaccine, and they should have hopefully already received their first dose and be ready to get their booster shots here soon. The next group is going to be 1B, which is going to be in February. And that's going to be food, agricultural workers, firefighters, and police not in 1A, manufacturing workers, grocery store workers, public transit workers, childcare workers, U.S. Postal Service workers, and essential government workers. So that's going to be the people that are eligible to get the vaccine starting next month in just about a week or so. So awesome. I'm glad y'all have been sticking through it. Hopefully you guys have been keeping yourself, your families, and the people around you safe by wearing masks, practicing social distancing, washing your hands, and just staying safe. And then in April is going to be the category 1C. And that's basically people ages 65 to 69, people ages 16 to 64 with high-risk medical conditions, workers in transportation and logistics, water and wastewater, food service, shelter, housing, finance, IT, communications, energy, media, public safety, public health workers. So basically almost everybody else, but not non... Oh man, that's really interesting how they phrase that actually. So I don't understand why they make these essential workers based as IT and communications, energy, media. But those are going to be the people who qualify for 1C, which myself and my wife fall into, and we will be getting our vaccine in April. So again, we'll get our vaccine, get our booster after, I think it's 2 weeks, depending on if it's Moderna or Pfizer. And then 2 weeks after that, then we will be out there making your voices heard and get back to campaigning, going out and working on my project for the next year, which is going to be helping find Democratic candidates to run for office for every single position in our state, because it was completely unacceptable that we had 66 Republicans run unopposed back in 2020. So that's what my focus is going to be. And I've been talking with my group and actually a couple different groups as well about this. And some of the biggest pushback and hesitation that we're seeing is because of filing fees. So I reached out to the DPA head, Michael Gray, and he hasn't responded to me yet, unfortunately. Hopefully he'll respond here soon. But what we need to do is we need to work on these filing fees. I know they're trying to lower them for positions that have been uncontested for several years or several races. But what we really need the DPA to do if we're going to flip Arkansas blue is we need the DPA to do something crazy, like run 2022 elections with no filing fees except candidates who have the money and the option to pay it, or make it so that candidates in 2022 have to pay, say, 1% of the annual salary up front and then 10% of their contributions until they reach the filing fee. Just some way to be able to get people to afford to run for office, because what the DPA stated was the reason they have some of the highest filing fees in the country is because they don't want lunatic candidates. They only want serious candidates. Well, I'll tell you this. I would rather a lunatic Democrat run against a Republican than the Republican run unopposed and get the seat handed to them any day. And I'm pretty sure a lot of y'all feel the same way, especially when we start to look into these House bills that are being voted on and passing committees right now. And I'll go over 3 bills today with y'all. But we've got to get people running for office, and we have to make it physically, financially viable for people to be able to do that, because a lot of people can't afford just to go, oh, here's $4,500 for my race. Here's my filing fee. I don't know if I'm going to win. I'm probably not going to win because the Republicans won the seat for the last 20 years in a row. But here's $4,500. Good luck to me. A lot of people can't afford to do something like that. And getting money out of politics starts with allowing people to have the access to file to run for office. All right, so let's see here. I see some different comments and stuff coming in on Facebook here. So let me read through these real quick before I hop into these House bills. We're going to talk about House Bill 1218, 1024, and 1123 this evening. So, choice of color scheme is very clever. Oh, thank you. Honestly, I like the red and the black background. And in case y'all are wondering, one of the things that I'm really trying to get going, my supporters, everyone who retweets me, what do you think about this idea? So Andrew Yang, when he ran for president, his thing was math. You know, if you were an Andrew Yang supporter back during the 2020 primaries, then you probably know that the Yang Gang has like little blue hat symbols next to their Twitter names. So I actually have a little man in a suit. It's a shirt with a yellow and blue striped tie. So if you are one of my big supporters, you really like what I stand for and share my tweets all the time and stuff, feel free to add that little emoji into your name. And if you look at my Twitter handle, you'll see it on my Twitter handle. But yeah, anyways, moving on. Thank you, Zach. I appreciate it. Let's see. Oh, good to see you too, Juan. Thank you for joining me for my live stream tonight. And we will definitely have at least one competitive national candidate next cycle. We have 4 different House seats, plus our 1 Senate seat that are coming up, of course, every 2 years for the House seats. But we have to make sure that we have candidates that are going to get people excited, that are going to get people to want to go out and vote. Of course, Joyce Elliott was just wonderful at that. She actually won her race, and I was really hoping she would win her race. I was on the edge of my seat all night long. But unfortunately, she just barely lost. So hopefully we can get Joyce to run against Hill again, get that 1% vote. With 44.5% of eligible voters not voting, all she has to do is get 1% of those voters to come in and give her that win. So we're going to work on helping Joyce get her district back. That'll flip 1 red seat to blue right there. And then we have to make sure, of course, Rick Crawford does not run unopposed again. He is, well, we've all seen how he is with sedition and things like that now in the recent past. And Of course, Steve Womack. We have to make sure that we have good candidates that are going to get people excited. And we need to figure out what that voter block was at 44.5%, who those people were, and why they decided not to go vote. And we have to figure out how to get them excited. I know a lot, like a really large portion of the non voters, of course, are students. So, how do you focus on students and get students excited to go out and vote? Well, number one, you talk about policies that are relevant to students. A lot of students are just covered in student debt. Student debt is terrible. We have turned our educational system into a financial market for basically our colleges and our states to just take advantage of American citizens. We've got to fix that, especially the financial institutions that are charging, Americans interest on these loans that they've been paying off for, say, 20, 25 years, and they're still at the same point, whereas so say they loaned out $20,000 and they've already paid $30,000 and they still owe 20 more because of interest and things like that. Those are tragedies. So you have to figure out how to get students excited to vote, and eliminating student debt is huge. If we can get more candidates that support eliminating student debt, we can get a lot more voters to those polls. So hopefully we can focus on that here soon too this year. Let's see here. We do need it badly. Fast food workers need it badly. Absolutely. And I think it's very interesting. I don't go out and get fast food anymore because I'm staying home, but I have heard a lot about fast food workers not wearing gloves, some with their masks down under their chins and things like that. And we've also had outbreaks in areas from fast food workers who were actually forced to work shifts when they were sick. So we do need to make sure fast food workers are a high priority and get them their vaccinations. They come in contact with so many people every single day. Um, let's see here. Do I have a comment about Tom Cotton's Army Ranger status? I do, Janie, and we'll talk about that. I have it written down here and a little bit after I talk about some of the other things going on. Do I have student loan debt? Yes, I do have student loan debt. I am in college still pursuing my information systems bachelor's degree. I have already finished my associates of, let's see, I finished my liberal arts and my associates of applied science magna cum laude. I'm currently working on, I think after one, maybe two more semesters, because I took a light load this semester because of work and campaigning and things like that. I should be able to finish my associates in computer information, and then I'll finish my information systems bachelor here after that's all done. And yes, just like everybody else, I have student debt. So I understand as a student what it's like to acquire that debt, to have to pay these insane amount of tuition costs, how tuition costs are rising every single year, how we're paying ridiculous fees, such as long distance learning fees. Why do we have to pay a long distance learning fee and a library fee for virtual learning at the same time? But there's a whole bunch of different things that I do understand because I'm going through those things. Hey, Kristen, thanks for joining me. And Joanne, you're so awesome, of course, as always. Joanne's a huge activist. She actually was with the first group who started towards eliminating student debt and the student loan crisis back, I think it was a decade ago. Let's see, Mr. Jim, Vivian, thank you guys for coming on. And absolutely, education needs to be seen as an investment for our future. If we start educating as many people as we can, we will see the return for this in 5, 10, 15, 20 years when everybody has all of the good jobs and we don't have good jobs that we're outsourcing to foreign countries because we don't have people that qualify for them here in America. I think, I believe the last time I saw this statistic, it was something like 85% of PhD holders in America are here on visa. 85% because Americans are not getting the kind of education that they deserve because it's just so dreadfully expensive. All right. So I'm all caught up on Facebook. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I'll answer any questions that you all have as soon as we, let's see here. Salamander Sweet, you're awesome. Let's see here. All right, so moving on. So let's talk about these House bills that we are seeing here in Arkansas coming up for a vote here soon. There will be different demonstrations and protests of people voicing their opposition to these bills. And unfortunately, we have become a ruby red state. We are the most Republican state in the country right now, and we did have some Democrats in committees that were able to kill ridiculous bills before they could even make it to votes. But unfortunately, now that the Republicans have the committee majority, the House majority, and Senate majority, we're going to see a lot of different bills that are just created to out of really far right conservative values. Not that conservative values are bad, but when you start to get extremely far to the right, then we start to see issues like what we're going to talk about today. Because we can demonstrate all we want, but unfortunately, there's nothing we can do about it. They don't have to listen to us. They're just going to do whatever they want to do, anyways. So let's see. First of all, I like to consider myself as fiscally conservative, but I'm also socially aware and I'm socially conscious. So I am a social capitalist. I do believe in capitalism, but I do not believe in crony capitalism, just so you can kind of get a standpoint of where I'm coming from when we talk about these bills. So one of the big things that I think is really interesting is the Republican Party is really, they stress the point of minimal government, minimal interference. The smaller government, the better. But it's really funny because now our state Republicans are trying to pass bills that are bringing big government in to influence our public sectors. And we're going to talk about first HB 1218 because this is a very important bill. And what HB 1218 is going to do is it is actually going to, let's see, I should have that bill pulled up right here. It's going to basically ban public schools and institutions from teaching about specific subjects. And the specific subjects are listed in this bill. So the specific subjects that public schools will be banned from teaching are race, gender, political affiliation, social class, or a particular class of people. Now, that's a very broad definition, but basically what that means is that's going to allow our I'm going to scroll back up to the top here, but that's going to allow our state to cut funding to teachers who want to teach about especially history. Of course, Arkansas has a very important role in the Civil War and slavery in America because we had all of the cotton plantations here in the Delta regions. And, slavery is a very important topic that should not be removed from schools, especially in a state like Arkansas. Now, let's see here. I'm just going to read some things here. So HB 1218 will ban clubs, events, or courses that promote social justice or encourage solidarity for any race, gender, or political group, such as like the Young Democrats or the Gay Straight Alliance or the Young Republicans or the Young Green Party members. It's going to restrict these groups from being able to take place at school. Another thing, it's going to basically silence the educational opportunities about systemic racism, gender inequality, and how poverty has developed in our state. Let's see, it would ban public schools from offering courses and classes, events, activities about gender, race, political affiliation. So basically, what this bill is going to do is it is going to severely hold back our youth and our children from learning about the truth in our history, learning about social justice, equality, and how different political affiliations and parties can affect and influence our government to change policies like what we're seeing right now today. So it's a very interesting bill. I honestly can't believe it passed committee, and it never would have passed committee if the Republicans didn't have such a super majority in our state. And now, unfortunately, like I had said a little bit ago, the Republicans, with their supermajority, they are going to throw this through the House and they're going to run it right through the Senate. And it is a very real thing that we may see this bill passed and affect the health and mental well-being of our children. So another thing that this will do inadvertently is it's going to make sure that the 1619 Project can never be taught in the state of Arkansas, because the 1619 Project focuses on racial inequalities and the truth about how slavery came through the Union, and no, slavery was not a necessary evil. So this is a very important bill, HB 1218. Make sure you look it up. I did post, I believe, earlier I posted on my social media a list of all the people in committee, their phone numbers, their emails. So make sure you reach out to your representatives, let them know how you feel about the bill, let them know how you want them to vote on it. So, of course, don't let your voice be silenced just because we know it's going to pass. Make sure that people hear how you feel about it. All right. So that's HB 1218. Just trying to catch up real quick on some of these comments on all these different platforms. All right. So the next bill that I want to talk about was HB 1024. And HB 1024 is a really terrible bill in my idea because the vagueness of the wording really gives absolute authority to a law enforcement officer without knowing the facts of what's actually happening and what's going on, while taking away the constitutional rights of women, of American citizens here in our state. So HB 1024, I'm going to try not to read the whole bill to you, of course. I do have it listed on my social media. And what I'll do is, while I'm reading it, I'm going to copy paste it into our chat so y'all can read along and you don't have to listen to my voice because I know how that is. And then I'm also going to copy this link to it and post that in chat as well. And now y'all should be able to look this bill up, post it on all my platforms. Oh no, I can't post it there because it's too long. All right. So what this bill does, HB 1024, it makes it so that I'm going to open this in a new screen real quick, actually. So it is titled An Act Concerning Threats or Statements that a Person Intends to Use a Controlled Substance While Pregnant or Introduce a Controlled Substance into the Body of a Pregnant Woman, concerning the introduction of a controlled substance into the body of a pregnant woman and for other purposes. Now, let's see here. And of course, if we do challenge some of these bills in court, unfortunately, our state Supreme Court is also Republican majority. So our Supreme Court is going to do whatever they want to do. Our Arkansas Ethics Committee, also Republican majority. Everything in Arkansas is Republican majority. So unless we can get people in these elected positions to do what they think is best, well, this could be what they think is best. So it's a really tough situation we're in right now, and that's why it's just so important that we have hundreds and hundreds of Democrats and independents and Green Party members, not necessarily libertarians. Libertarians, I guess, if you have to. But we need to make sure we have enough people running for these positions so that we aren't stuck with so many unopposed Republicans that they just rule our state and do whatever they want just with an iron fist. All right, so back to this. So the subtitle is concerning the threat of the actual introduction of a controlled substance into the body of a pregnant woman. Now, so the definition basically, let's start with A1. So if a woman is pregnant and makes a statement to another person that a reasonable person would have cause to believe is true, that she has a purpose to introduce a controlled substance as defined by the Uniform Controlled Substance Act into her own body. So basically, if you're at the store and there's a woman next to you and she just looks pregnant, maybe she's overweight, maybe she's not pregnant, maybe she is pregnant. But if she looks pregnant and you hear her say to someone that maybe she is going to go home and smoke some weed, or that she is going to go home and take a controlled substance, then that person, as long as they're considered a reasonable person, can actually call 911, have a law enforcement officer come to that location, put that woman in handcuffs, and take her into custody until and I believe it's actually until she is brought in front of a judge, brought to court until her first appearance in court. So, number one, what is a reasonable person? Somebody who has different values than you. Okay, so now we're telling women what they can and cannot do with their bodies. We're taking away their constitutional rights. We're kidnapping them, basically. I mean, it's just, there's so much room for error with this bill. Now, It also states here that a law enforcement officer who has probable cause to believe that a person has committed an offense under subdivision 1A of this section may take the person into custody and shall not release the person before his or first court appearance unless the law enforcement officer believes that that person is no longer able to introduce a controlled substance as defined by the Uniform Controlled Substance Act into her own body. Wow. I mean, these are really Orwellian bills that we're looking at right now. Basically, think police kind of stuff. Tom Cotton, where are you at, Mr. Tom Cotton? As a senator, you've been all about getting rid of the, think police and things like this. This is what your party is doing here in your state. When was the last time you came to Arkansas besides to lobby to a school board to open up a school for with COVID? I mean, these are very important issues that we're facing right here. So, like I said, there will be demonstrations and events about a lot of these bills over the next coming weeks. And, make sure you call your representatives, let them know how you feel about these bills. All right. Wow, great point, Juan. Replace pregnant woman being a witch and ingesting controlled substance and casting a spell. Wow, absolutely. I mean, it's basically a witch hunt is what it's doing, and it's giving a reasonable person the authority to conduct witch hunts. All right, so that is HB 1024. The next bill that I wanted to talk about, and the third and final bill we'll talk about this evening, is also a very, very important bill. Actually, oh man, I do want to also talk about one other bill, which kind of... Is it 28? Maybe I'll have to double check this. Let's see here real quick. HB Arkansas, where is it at? All right. So I'll have to let y'all know what the HB this is. But all right. So first, let's talk about stand your ground in Arkansas. Stand your ground in Arkansas. How interesting is it that we are talking about stand your ground in Arkansas? So here it is. It is SB 24. And I believe SB 24 did just pass committee and will be heading to the House here soon to be voted on. So let's talk a little bit about SB 24 and how SB 24 is actually going to kind of work along the lines with HB 1123, which is our militia bill. All right. So the first thing about SB 24 is it is a stand your ground bill here in Arkansas. And what it specifically does is it specifically removes the duty to retreat before taking deadly force upon an aggressor. And what that means basically is if someone is threatening you with a firearm or threatening you, I mean, realistically, someone can threaten me with a bat. And even if they're threatening me with a bat or a rock, anything that could be considered a deadly weapon, I have the authority to use deadly force against that person. It doesn't have to be a firearm. So currently, and I know this because I think if you are going to carry a firearm, it is a really, really good idea to go and get your concealed carry permit, because it's not just a permit or a piece of paper that gives you the right to carry in a constitutional carry state. You actually learn a lot about the laws where you can and cannot carry, because whether or not you believe you can carry anywhere or not, like some of our Republican friends would like you to believe, such as Ray Lemon, the founder of Arkansas, Friends of Arkansas, you can't just carry a firearm anywhere you want. Yes, we do have constitutional carry. We have open carry here in Arkansas. But if there is a private establishment and there is a sign on the door that says no guns allowed or has a gun with a circle and a line through it, you cannot carry your firearm on that premise. Whether or not you think it impedes on your constitutional rights or not, you are breaking the law, and doing so knowingly makes you a criminal. So next time you all want to be an open criminal, all the power to you. Everybody breaks some laws in some way or another. I'm sure everyone's driven a mile over the speed limit, but I suggest not being a criminal on a public forum and admitting to your crimes, such as carrying a firearm into a doctor's office just because you wanted to. All right, sorry, moving on. So Basically, the duty to retreat. And I guess real quick, get your concealed carry license because you learn a lot about the law, how you can and cannot carry a firearm, where you can, and things like that. Especially, you'll learn that number one, you can't carry a firearm on a school campus, especially elementary, middle school, and high schools. These are federal property. You cannot do it. You cannot carry your firearm at a post office or any other federal building. Now, also, if you have the time, I do suggest getting your enhanced concealed carry. When I got my enhanced concealed carry, that was another, I think it was an 8-hour course. It's not that long, just a day. It does also teach you a lot more about where you can and cannot carry your firearms. And at the same time, we did a lot of scenario talking and things like that on when it's okay to use your firearm. But basically, right now you have a duty to retreat. If someone aggresses you with intent and you feel like you are scared for your life, if you have the ability to back up and leave, you are required to back up and leave safely. Now, this is a very important word. Safely is in there. If you have the ability to safely leave the situation, then you are not authorized to use deadly force, which makes sense. Now, of course, if someone is aggressing you and you have no safe option to retreat, then you defend yourself and your family how best you see fit, depending on the specific unique scenario that you are involved with. Now, what SB 24 does is it removes the duty to retreat. So now all you have to do is basically say, I felt threatened for my life, you pulled your gun and you fired. That's all you have to do. You're legally not required to have to retreat, even if it's possible for you to retreat. So that's a very important part of it. Now, what they're also trying to have amended into SB 24 right now is they're trying to remove the word, that you were carrying somewhere legally permitted, that you were lawfully carrying your firearm. Basically meaning that if you were, say, in a building, so I work at JB Hunt, so I don't carry at my office because at my office there's a sign very clear that says no firearms permitted. So I do not carry in my office. Now, if I decided to carry in my office, I would be doing so not lawfully. Now, if I was carrying in my office and for whatever reason I had to draw and use my firearm to use deadly force against someone, not only am I liable, depending on whether or not I had the duty to retreat and could do so safely, I am legally liable for breaking the law for carrying a firearm on that property. So it would remove the legal immunities for using your duty for retreating, basically. Now, what's important to this is you shouldn't be breaking the law in the first place. So you shouldn't have immunity for breaking the law if you're breaking the law. In my opinion, I think Donald Trump said law and order, and a lot of Republican senators and politicians were really big on law and order until it starts to affect them and their base. So we really have to keep an eye on SB 24 to see how it's amended, who amends it. We need to make sure we know who is sponsoring these bills, who's co-sponsoring them, and who's voting on them, because these are things that we need to think about in 2022 when we're voting on who is going to remain in our state legislative body. So that is SB 24, and that one goes hand in hand with House Bill 1123. And House Bill 1123 is another very interesting bill. So the name of the bill is to amend the law concerning the powers, duties, and immunities of the militia. Now, I've been to several protests over the last summer, and I guess over the last couple years, I've been to a bunch of different protests. And one of the things that I have seen and noticed is whenever we show up to a protest, whether we're armed or not, there's always an opposition. There's the protesters that protest the protesters. And these people show up heavily armed, and they show up and call themselves patriots or the militia. Now, we need to see what the legal definition, how they're going to define militia, and see if the militia has to be appointed by the state, if the militia can be past appointed. So if there was a situation where someone was here as militia, but not official militia, if they can, if something happens, they commit a crime, if the governor can come back and say, oh, they were militia, and absolve them from those crimes and give them immunities. Well, so basically, what this bill is going to do, let me just copy and paste this real quick again into the chat so y'all can read along. And I do see your question, Top GED. So, what's your solution for helping the unborn child? I will talk about that in just one bit. What do I think about Italian politics? I see your question there as well, and I'll answer those in just a few. YouTube, unfortunately, YouTube, I can't post these links in there because I have a 200 character limit count. All right, so HB 1123 A. Whenever such forces or any part of thereof, a member of the militia shall be is ordered out of service of any kind, they, he, or she shall have all powers, duties, and immunities of peace officers, a law enforcement officer of the state of Arkansas, in addition to all powers, duties, and immunities now otherwise provided by law. So what that is doing is that is giving militia the authority of law enforcement officers. They have basically become deputized police officers. All right. Now, another part that they add in is no an officer or enlisted personnel of such forces of the militia shall not be arrested on any warrant except for treason or felony while going to, remaining at, or returning from a place where they are ordered to attend for militia duty. So not only are we giving the militia the same authority as law enforcement, but we are also granting them legal immunities from anything but a felony or treason, which is just really interesting because now we are giving militia law enforcement authority, legal immunity, and we are also saying you no longer have a duty to retreat and you can now stand your ground. And if you feel threatened for your life, you can take the life of another person. So this is all just very interesting bills that we're seeing here in Arkansas through our state legislators that are now being able to get through committees. They're being able to make it onto the House floor, and they will be able to get onto the Senate floor and pass. So make sure you're keeping up with local politics. I'll do everything I can. If you have, of course, if anything pops up that I'm not talking about or haven't mentioned before, feel free to send me a message, bring me up to date on it. I of course, I'm ignorant on what's going on all the time everywhere, so please help me absolve this ignorance by letting me know it's happening, and I will do everything I can to use my platform to make sure that other people are aware as well. All right, so oh my gosh, we are already 37 minutes into my live stream, and all we've really talked about are bills. I guess it's really good stuff, and it's important. We need to be talking about this stuff, but I do have a few other things I wanted to go over before we go ahead and end my live stream. So let's move right along. All right. So I didn't talk a lot about current politics and what's going on with social issues during my last live stream because I wanted to keep it more upbeat and yes, we're running, we're going to do this, let's get energized kind of thing. Well, unfortunately, just because we don't talk about something doesn't mean it's not happening. So let's talk just a little bit about sedition, the Capitol riots, impeachment, and things like that. But I'm going to make this quick so I don't bore y'all because y'all have been getting just pounded with this stuff through media now for weeks. So let's start with sedition. Sedition is extremely, I mean, it's as terrible as it gets. Let me see if I can, let me do a window capture real quick, and I'll do it on this window. All right, so hopefully y'all can see my window here. All right. So this is my lovely website. I hope you guys have all checked it out, danwhittcongress.us or danforarkansas.com. We are going to go to my sedition page here. All right, so I did want to talk a little bit about sedition and maybe, aha, rolling chair. I can come over this way. Sweet, wow, this is wonderful. All right. So I do want to talk a little bit about sedition and what's going on, especially here in our state with sedition. So what sedition is basically, let me pull up here. All right. So sedition is conduct or speech inciting people to rebel against the authority of a state or monarch. So basically, it is speech that is, man, I'm trying to figure out how I can do my camera. I'll just leave it like that. So it is speech that is against the authority of our government, basically. So now that we've gone over very briefly the definition of sedition, let's talk a little bit about, let me just, oh, not going to be able to move that there. Let's see. So this is straight from the Constitution. This is the 14th Amendment, Section 3. No person shall be a senator or representative in Congress or elector of president and vice president or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States or under any state who, having previously taken an oath as a member of Congress or as an officer of the United States or as a member of the state legislature or as an executive or judicial office of any state to support the Constitution of the United States, shall have engaged in insurrection, rebellion against the same, or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. But Congress may by a vote of 2/3 of each house, the House and the Senate, remove such disability. Oh no. I'm so sorry, little guy. I'm sorry, buddy. I knocked over one of my praying mantises. Two of my praying mantises. All right. All right, game on. So it's really important that we see even comfort. You can't comfort the enemy after they commit sedition against our country. Yes, I actually had a surprise, a nice winter surprise. They're so hard to see because it's out of focus. I've got about 10 praying mantises right now. Our praying mantis egg hatched a little bit early, so I was excited. Anyways, so the penalty for sedition in the United States of America, if two or more persons in any state or territory or in any place subject to the jurisdiction of the United States conspire to overthrow, put down, or destroy by force the government of the United States, or to levy war against them, civil war, or anyone who incites civil war, or to oppose by force the authority thereof, or by force to prevent, hinder, or delay the execution of any law of the United States, or by force to seize, take, or possess any property of the United States contrary to the authority thereof, they shall each be fired or fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 20 years or both, which is to take, possess property of the United States, which the Capitol building is property of the United States of America and the people therein. So there really has been a serious crime committed that we are not taking serious enough. Now, this right here, if you go to danwhitcongress.us, sedition, this is my website, and I have made the Constitution of the United States right here. It is, you can click on it, and the entire Constitution's right here. And from here, you can actually download the Constitution if you don't have a copy yet. So let me close these extra tabs. All right. So this is the Constitution. Now, where this gets relevant, this begins to get relevant with the state of Pennsylvania versus, or the state of Texas versus Pennsylvania. Now, this is the document that our state house or our federal House members drafted with the help of 17 U.S. Attorney Generals. Now, again, I made this downloadable. You can hit download PDF, and the entire document is here. I believe these are all just people. and then the bill comes through here. But the entire thing is here for download. Once you click that link, you can click download and you can download the seditious bill. So make sure you check that out and read through it. Now, 17 U.S. Attorney Generals supported this brief. 17 out of 50. That is a large majority of our AGs. So I went ahead and I listed the state for each of the AGs, their name, and their contact numbers. So if one of these states you reside in, if you reside in one of these states, feel free to call up your attorney general and let them know what the definition of sedition is, how they committed sedition, and how you feel about it. Here in Arkansas, our attorney general is Leslie Rutledge, and she participated in sedition. So she, therefore, should no longer be eligible to run for any elected position for the rest of her life in the United States of America, along with these other attorney generals listed here. Now, after these 17 U.S. Attorney Generals supported the brief and helped the 126 House members write it, 9 United States senators delivered the brief to the Supreme Court of the United States of America. I listed the states of these 9 senators that submitted the brief, and included here again is Arkansas with Senator Tom Cotton, who by submitting the seditious brief has now committed sedition against the United States of America and the people therein. He is no longer eligible to hold or run for any elected office in the United States of America, including Governor Rick Scott, the senator from Florida, Ted Cruz, Mike Lee, all of these other U.S. senators who submitted this brief. All right. So the next thing that I listed on here are the 126 U.S. House members that signed the brief. And we have Arkansas with Rick Crawford. So Rick Crawford, right, by signing this document, has committed sedition and again is no longer eligible to hold or run for public office in the United States of America. And if you are in any of these other states, these are your representatives. I didn't go ahead and list their emails and phone numbers for each one, just because I already had spent a couple hours putting all this together, making sure it was all accurate. So the next thing, and the last thing we'll talk about sedition, is Interim Resolution 2019-006. So I'll just read real quick just this part. Requesting the Arkansas Legislative Council express that it has no faith in the validity of election results in the 2020 presidential election reported by the states of Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, Georgia, requesting that the United States Congress refuse to accept electoral votes for the office of President of the United States from the states of Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Georgia if full and fair investigations are not completed, and requesting that the Arkansas Legislative Council express its support for the state of Texas's position in litigation pending before the United States Supreme Court concerning the 2020 presidential election. Therefore, this interim resolution is seditious in itself, and the people listed within this document here have committed sedition against the United States of America. So I went ahead and I made it easier to read. You can also click download, and you can download the interim resolution from my website here. And I went ahead and just wrote their names out so it's easier to read. These are our state senators who committed sedition, and these are our state representatives who have also committed sedition by signing that letter. Jason Rappert, of course, is one. Bob Ballinger, Trent Garner. These are 3 really big names in our state. So we have to figure out what we can do to hold these people accountable, because we can no longer afford to allow this kind of seditious behavior to go unaccounted for, because what we're doing is we are allowing them to repeat these seditious acts later on, when it will be more likely to hurt us as a nation and hurt our state and us as a people. So that is something I did want to talk about. because what this led to, what these documents led to, is this is what led to the insurrection riots at our state capitol building. This is what led to it. If we didn't have elected officials signing papers like this, writing them, submitting them to the Supreme Court, then the people who took part in the insurrection and these riots would have never been there in the first place. So it's extremely important that we talk about the cause for the insurrection as well as the insurrection itself. Now, as far as the Capitol riots go, we all know what happened. Tens of thousands of people showed up to the Capitol building. They stormed the building. They broke doors. They broke windows. They broke into the building. I believe 2 police officers lost their lives from this. 5 of the insurrectionists lost their lives as well. A lot of them were Army veterans. A lot of them were past military veterans. It was a terrible tragedy, something that never should have happened, and something that never would have happened if our leadership would have done their jobs properly. If number one, President Donald J. Trump didn't partake in sedition by encouraging these riots and encouraging the insurrection into the Capitol building. We all saw his watch party where people were dancing, watching what was happening on big screens from a tent. It's no secret what happened. So we need to make sure that we are beginning to hold these people accountable for the crimes they've committed. We need to hold these attorney generals accountable for the crimes they committed. These state legislators, these state senators, these United States federal senators, these United States federal House members. We got to make sure we're holding these people accountable, and the best way we can do that is by immediately revoking their position in elected office in the United States government and replacing them with people who are actually patriotic and are who have not committed treason against our country. All right. Again, I didn't want to bring all this heaviness into my last live stream, but we do need to talk about it, and I've talked about it now, so let's leave it there. So far from the Capitol riots, the FBI has issued more than 200 arrest warrants. They have arrested more than 100 people involved, and hopefully we can look at this as a terrible moment in history, something we can learn from and never ever repeat again. And we can go from there. So what that led to was the impeachment of President Donald John Trump, and he is the first president in American history to have been impeached twice during his term. So he can keep that award with him. And unfortunately, they did have time to convict. Our Senate had time. They had, I believe, 11 days from the impeachment to the inauguration. And if our Senate wanted to convict for the crimes of sedition and insurrection, then they had the time to do it. It only took them 8 days to confirm a United States Supreme Court justice, which is a lifelong position. So if they can confirm a Supreme Court justice in 8 days, they by definitely had enough time and 11 days to convict with all of the evidence, the video evidence, and everything else that was there and given. They decided not to. So Donald J. Trump will not be impeached, will not be convicted as a president, just impeached. So now what's next is, I understand President Joe Biden wants to talk about unity and healing and, doing away with the last 4 years and moving forward from there. But it is time that we do talk about pressing charges against Donald Trump. He has been impeached twice. He has Comey. We know Donald Trump has committed crimes as far as tax evasion, abuse of power, sedition. It is time we as a people start demanding that we do pursue charges and that he does answer for the crimes he has committed. And we should also be looking at especially things like when they had the Chinese tariffs that Donald Trump enacted and allowed his daughter's company to continue business with China and have her products not disrupted by those tariffs and things like that. We need to make sure we're holding our United States senators and different elected positions accountable for insider trading is really important right now. So there are a lot of different things that people need to be held accountable for, and we have to start pursuing charges. We can't begin to heal until we've had justice. If you try to start the healing process without justice, then you're just putting a band-aid on it, and we're going to end up ripping that band-aid off later when we have more injustices committed against us from those same people. So we do need to start talking about, as a people, coming together and figuring out how we can pursue charges on these these abuse of power, tax evasion, and sedition for Donald J. Trump, because it is time. All right. So the last thing I really wanted to talk about here on a negative, and then we can get away from all this negative drama stuff and start talking about more positive things moving forward and where we go from here. An article did come out about Tom Cotton being a liar. We all know Tom Cotton's a liar. Unfortunately, he's already duped enough people that he has been guaranteed another 6 years in the United States Senate. Hopefully, this information can keep him from running for president in 2024. But no, Senator Tom Cotton did not serve in the military in Afghanistan and Iraq as an Army Ranger. He, when he was in the academy, went to Ranger training for I think it was 2 months. And after his 2 months training, like ATI, it's just specialized training after basic, he claimed in interviews that he went to Afghanistan and Iraq as an Army Ranger, but he didn't go as an Army Ranger. Okay, not a big deal, but just something that people should know. Now, one of the things someone brought to my attention that's interesting about John Boozman is John Boozman has been in the legislative branch for 20 years now. And in 20 years, my opponent has only submitted 4 bills, which comes down to about, when it comes to the cost of taxpayers per bill from the senator, it comes down to about the cost of $500,000 a bill that he has submitted. So we've basically been paying Bowman $500,000 a bill. $500,000 a bill as long as he's been representing us, which is just an interesting fact. All right, done with the negative. Now let's move forward. I don't have a whole lot else that I really want to talk about. I do want to talk about that I want to focus on reaching out this next upcoming week and, the upcoming weeks, that I will be reaching out to different Democratic parties around different Democratic county parties around our state. I'm going to try to get into as many different Zoom virtual meetings as I can so that I can talk to people about running for office, talk to candidates about wanting to file and run. And of course, we have to talk to Michael John Gray about lowering filing fees to get people to the point where they can afford to run. That way we have some candidates that want to run for office running against unopposed Republicans rather than those unopposed Republicans running unopposed. So that is one of the things I'm going to focus on for these next coming weeks. And I'm going to talk to the DPA about lowering their filing fees. I don't know if they'll listen to me. I'm a new member to their party. But I think that it is in the best interest to everybody in our state that we do flip Arkansas blue. And the only way we're going to do that is by lowering filing fees and getting people to run, even if it's just for one election cycle. All right. $500,000 per bill. I like it. That's a great hashtag. All right. So let me run through some of this thing real quick. Some of these different comments I've had. Let me move this screen here. Oh, where can I get a Dan hat? I only have like 4 of these left. We sold so many of them already. What I'll do is I'm waiting for Vistaprint to do another 50% off everything sale. And as soon as they do a 50% off everything sale, I'll spend like $5,000 and I'll get more hats, stickers, shirts, all these good things. I just wanted to make sure to get the most bang for our buck. So I'm waiting for that sale. They usually do it on Black Friday, but they didn't do it on Black Friday. It didn't apply to a lot of the different things that I wanted to purchase. So I didn't do it then. Then they usually do it at Christmas and they didn't do it then. So hopefully here in the next couple months, we'll get their sale and I'll get some more hats in here so y'all can get hooked up with these really cool hats. And they're like really good quality too. Oh man, my hair's probably a mess under there. So I got COVID hair. My wife's not letting me go out to get a haircut yet. Once we get our vaccine. But they're really good hats. They're flex fit. They're pretty high quality. Oh man, I need a haircut. All right, so let's see here. And that was Mr. Dan. All right, so Dark Sage has a question for me. I grew up in the Kennedy years, so I'm much more conservative than most progressives today. You had mentioned on your bio you are progressive. My question is, as a more old school Democrat who is not the biggest fan of progressives, how can I reach out to the old school Democrats like myself? Are you willing to take a more centrist approach to issues if it means getting my vote? So one thing that really puts me aside from other candidates is I don't just say what you want to hear to get your votes. I'm always going to be straight with you. Whether it's about abortion or gun control or medical care or education or the environment, I'm always going to be straight, and I'm not going to tailor my message to earn your vote. If you want to vote for me, thank you so much. I'll never ask you for your vote. I'll never ask you to vote for someone else. All I can do is ask for your attention, your ear, and your eyes on my campaign, who I am and what I stand for. Now, as far as trying to earn the vote of more centrist Democrats, I think what it really comes down to is we, even more centrist Democrats and Republicans, even, we have a lot of problems that we're facing as a society. And a lot of these problems that we're facing cross party lines. A lot of them are just nonpartisan issues, such as high taxes, low wages, low educational funding, high medical bills, high bankruptcy rates, gentrification. There's just so many different issues that we're facing that we really need to come together, Republicans and Democrats and independents and Green Party and libertarians alike, if we're going to start to have solutions to these problems. And one of the biggest pushbacks I get is a lot of people, as soon as they hear, say, you're progressive, they hear key terms, progressive, Democrat, Republican, things like that, conservative, liberal, and they immediately just shut down. They don't want to, they'll listen to what you say, but they're not really listening to what you're saying. It's just going in one ear and out the other. So what we really have to do is we have to get people's attention and get them to understand the legislation that we're proposing. Because when you understand something, you're more likely to support it. Now, when you say you're a more old school centrist Democrat, one of the things that might come to mind for me would be, oh, okay, so you probably don't support Medicare for all. You probably support expanding and enhancing and expanding the Affordable Care Act, which is understandable. And the way that I would come back against that specific policy, because that's again what it comes back to with the more centrist approach, you just have to talk about policies. It's this specific policy and this is why. And then you have to listen, well, this is what you don't like about it. So you have to go back and forth and try to understand each other to best build a policy that's going to be comprehensive for all of us. So when it comes down to, like, say, Medicare for all, for example, is affording the Affordable Care Act and expanding it a good thing? Absolutely. Definitely. The Affordable Care Act was leaps forward from where we were just a decade ago, but it's not far enough. So, do I support expanding and protecting the Affordable Care Act? Absolutely, I do. Until we can get Medicare for All passed. And Medicare for All is the long game. That's what's really going to change a huge majority of Americans' lives. Because right now, the number one cause of bankruptcy in America is medical debt. People can work their entire lives, they pay their ridiculous insurance premiums, they pay their medical bills, they pay their taxes, they do everything right, and then they get sick and they can't go to work, and then they lose everything. They lose their car, their house, their family. They lose everything just because they got sick after they've been doing everything right. Unfortunately, this is still the case with the Affordable Care Act. The Affordable Care Act hasn't solved that problem. Bankruptcy is still the number one cause of bankruptcy, or medical debt is still the number one cause of bankruptcy in America, and we've had the ACA for over a decade now. So I do support, of course, expanding it and protecting it until we can get Medicare for All passed, which I know is still kind of a pipe dream because we're going to have to get enough people willing to pass Medicare for All, which means we have to get enough senators and congressmen and legislators willing to not take money from the health and pharmaceutical industry in exchange for voting on legislation that's going to take money from the health and pharmaceutical industry, but put it back into taxpayers' pockets. So I guess that's a really long So am I willing to take a more centrist approach to some issues if it meant getting my vote? You would have to ask me give me a specific issue, what issues you want to talk about, and we can talk about those issues. And then you can let me know after we talk about those issues if you would be more likely to vote for me after having had that conversation, or how I can maybe, if I'm ignorant in something or not educated enough in it, you can help educate me so that I can come up with a more comprehensible solution. I don't know everything. I'm ignorant in a lot of ways, just like everybody else. So ignorant just means not knowing. I know sometimes I use the word ignorant and people think of it as a trigger word, like calling someone stupid, but it's not. It just means not knowing. And we are all not knowing in a lot of different ways. You don't know until you finally know. All right. So if you ask more specific policy questions, I will, of course, always answer. And I'll be here every single Saturday, 6 p.m. Central, if you want to ask your questions then too. Let's see here. All right, Facebook. I've got a ton of stuff on Facebook. Let's see here. It does sound like qualified immunity beefed up, and we need to get rid of end qualified immunity as well. That goes along with law enforcement reform. So Jim says, how does the bill differentiate between an informal band of gunslingers calling themselves militia as opposed to a group that is formally recognized by the governor, maybe trained law enforcement, maybe, and trained in law enforcement to be responsible in carrying out their duties. So, and that's where the big question comes is, if I say I'm militia, does that make me militia? Can a group say they are militia and then have the governor come back after the fact and deem them as militia? Or does the governor have to deem this group of these specific people, so and so, so and so, so and so, and so and so, are deemed militia? So it's really vague on exactly how to define the term. Yes, and Tom Cotton's no quarter. Oh man. Political speech is highly protected by the First Amendment. I think is more relevant to consider the conduct of such officials. And political speech is highly protected by the First Amendment, but the First Amendment does have its restrictions. When it becomes violent, or when violence is initiated or death is a result from said freedom of speech, then it is no longer free speech. And after these people committed sedition, expressing their freedom of speech, what it did was it led to an event where 7 people lost their lives, and it is no longer freedom of speech. You can't go on an airplane and yell bomb. And yeah, 17 to 15 is not a majority. It's too many. One is too many. Attorney General is the highest legal office in a state, and we should expect more of our attorney generals to at least follow the law. And unfortunately, our attorney general here in Arkansas has failed us on more than one occasion. And I believe she's currently under a lawsuit for spending tax dollars on campaign advertising, like 1.7 million. So we'll see if she answers for her crimes. Is Bozeman aiding, abetting, or giving comfort if he has not acted in any manner of encouraging the filing of charges leading to convicted insurrectionists? It's really hard because saying something and remaining silent about something, they are a little different. They're kind of the same depending on what it is, but I can't really say if he's aiding or abetting, and I haven't seen anything that I would say was comforting or seditionist from John Bozeman. He's a very good he's very good at staying under the radar, keeping his head down, and no one really paying a lot of attention to who's Senator John Bozeman. I mean, who's Senator John Bozeman? A lot of people don't know who he is, but what's important is to look at his legislative votes. When you look at how he's voting and when you see how he's voted, if you look at all of those senators who committed sedition, and when you look at how he's voted the same way as all of those different senators, how he's voted the same way with Senator Tom Cotton 98% of the time, then you can start to see a little bit of what's happening below the radar, behind closed doors. Um, let's see here. Oh man, there's just so much. I'm trying to just kind of scroll through this. I don't really see any questions. Audio, is my audio not working? Let's see here. Testing, testing. Nope, my boom mic should be on. A Dan Pith helmet. Yeah, Canada has great healthcare. And I think what's really important with Medicare for All is, well, number one, we have to understand we are the only modernized nation in the entire world. 30 out of 38 modernized nations, 37 of them have some kind of single payer healthcare. And we are the only one that does not. And of course, we can't just go and say, oh, well, we're going to be just like Canada's, or we're going to be just like the Netherlands or the UK or whatever. We have 37 other models that we can look at, find the good parts of them that we like, weed out the bad parts we don't, and create our own comprehensive type of single payer healthcare. It's not rocket science, but the only problem is the people who vote on this kind of legislation take money from the people who would lose financially because of it. All right. Cool. So I guess I'm all kind of caught up on the different comments and questions on here. I've gone over really everything I wanted to go over. And, where we're going to focus on, like I said, the next couple weeks is we're going to continue reaching out to different Democratic county parties. I ordered my Arkansas map. So I finally got my map in. It took a little while, but I'm going to put it up behind me on this big banner, and we can mark different areas on the map where we have candidates running, where we need candidates, where Republicans are unopposed, how long they've been unopposed there, so we can start to build a comprehensive list of where we need candidates to run. And as soon as I have my vaccine, then I'm going to start traveling the state, and I will go out. And if I have to stand on street corners in front of libraries, at the DMV, or the revenue office, then I will do whatever it takes to talk to people and find people to run for office if we have unopposed Republicans running, because we have to get people running for office. And again, this is going to come all the way back to filing fees. We have to make sure we have reasonable filing fees for candidates. I don't know about you, but I would rather have a lunatic Democrat run against a Republican than have no one run against a Republican and not give the people of that district the opportunity to have taxation with representation. All right. But thank you guys so much. I guess this is kind of a short one, only an hour and 11 minutes. Awesome. If you guys have any other questions, I'm always here. I answer my own social media, email, phone, messages, text, all that good stuff. Feel free to reach out to me anytime. I appreciate you guys telling me your concerns, your suggestions. Make sure if there is anything going on, of course, in our state that you think that people need to be aware about, reach out to me, and I'll use my platform to help make that happen. So far, we've been able to get two races, or we got, we were able to help get a racist police chief to resign from his position. We were able to get stuff done through public pressure. So thank you guys so much for keeping on it. I'll do my part as long as you all keep doing yours. Let's see. And yeah, the DPA probably won't work on filing fees until the summer. So that is also something we need to consider, because we're going to be filing at the end of this year. And oh, actually, no, filing is going to be different this upcoming election. I believe it's going to be February. I think it's either February or March, like February maybe 20th to 28th or something like that, for our filing dates for 2022 elections, because this is going to be a midterm year. So, oh, thank you, Luba, Vivian, Janie. You guys are so awesome. Thank you so much for all of your continued support. Gosh, I can't wait until we all have vaccines and we can go out, we can have a big dinner and a big rally in your towns and get people excited to go out and vote, to go out and run for office, and to start to take our state back, so that maybe we can do things like raising our wages, lowering our taxes, and getting healthcare and education to all of our children the way that they deserve it. But thank you guys so much. I do appreciate your support. My name is Dan Whitfield. I'm the Progressive Democrat running for the United States Senate here in Arkansas to unseat and replace John Bozeman. May God bless y'all. May God bless America. May God bless Arkansas. Stay strong, stay in it, and you guys have a safe weekend.